when we talk about medication affecting the VA disability, let's start with the good. Okay. Usually I have a bad mindset and I just want to dig deep into the bad, let's start with the good. And then we'll kind of transition from there.
All right. Good. Well, this is, again, look, this is the strangest world that we live in here in the VA disability space, because everything bad is good and everything that's good is bad, right? So, hey, hallelujah, I've healed 100%. Great. Now you're at 0%. Or, oh man, that condition got worse. Great. I'm getting an increase, right? So it's always a weird kind of talking out of both sides of your mouth and a lot of conflicting thoughts. With that being said, let's just, for an example, say that your medication that you're taking is, stabilizing your condition, right? So it's not as bad as without, which is good for you. And the problem may come that medication may have certain kind of collateral damage effects, right? Creating secondary conditions for you, in which then you would want to apply for additional VA compensation. Now, directly from the 38 CFR, it's a small little snippet here, Clay. I'm going to read it so I can get your thoughts as well. And just so we can let people know that we're actually not making things up. It's actually here. So according to the 38 CFR 3.310 Bravo, veterans may be eligible for compensation for secondary service-connected medication side effects. Because, look, sometimes people think, well, that just sounds like too good to be, like you can just keep snowballing all of this stuff. Yep, you can currently. But guess what? The VA can change their rules, and they do. And we've already seen them change things in a negative aspect. So if you have any secondary conditions that resulted from your medication, you might want to take advantage of that if you're not already at an appropriate level of compensation. So it goes on here, Clay, to say secondary service connection claims are for conditions that develop after service but are related to a service-connected condition. Some common side effects may include erectile dysfunction, which pushes you over to SMC, and gastrointestinal, I can't even say it, gastro issues, right? So, which again, I mean, these can be some decent ratings that come out of that stuff, and it's important that you recognize it. My suggestion, Clay, is when you have some free time, Google search side effects, secondary conditions, whatever kind of different ones, different terminologies, and your medication. So you can see, oh, people who take this medication often have these problems. And you can kind of self-assess and go, you know what, I might actually have that and I've just dealt with it. Or I do have that. I never knew that it was tied to this. And then you can go to your doctor and start having that conversation and move forward with the secondary at that point. Clay, your thoughts?
Oh yeah, so the secondary to medication, one, I'm not going to say it's a slam dunk claim because it's absolutely not. Okay, you still have to provide the nexus. The nexus is still medical in nature, but it's tied to current diagnosis to medication, which is generally a lot easier than all the other secondary conditions. Okay, there's two that come to mind outside of erectile dysfunction. ED is probably the number one most commonly claimed secondary to medication, specifically mental health medication. The other two that come to mind that I've seen is gabapentin, and that would be sleep apnea secondary to gabapentin for like weight gain. And there's tons of other correlating factors there. And the other one I'm very familiar with is urinary frequency from hypertension medication. Because you have high blood pressure, you might have some kidney issues, some heart issues. You have to flush your system out. And so in the medical world, they're going to give you medication to flush your system out. What does that look like? It means at nighttime, you're going up to pee 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times. And in the 38 CFR criteria for urinary frequency at 40%, I believe it's 10, 20, 40, it talks about, 5 times a night. I don't remember the number exactly. You can Google 38 CFR for urinary frequency. But if you get up to pee at night, and there's also a daytime criteria, that's a 40% secondary service connection on hypertension, which, by the way, hypertension on meds is more than likely, there's a pun there, going to be 0%, right? Because it's controlled by that medication. But go ahead.
Right. Yeah. Great point. So the underlying message that Clay just sent you is sometimes the service connected condition is going to be a low value claim. But guess what? Low value claims are important, right? Because they can help you get those secondaries that then are really kind of considered in that high value claim bucket, which is why both of us hate talking about high value claims, because every claim is equally important in different ways. There is another section. I just wanted to read 2 sentences out of this, just again to double down on the VA's stance on this specific subject. So it says here, according to benefitsva.gov. Okay, so that's the one of their sites, right? The benefits.va.gov. Medication management for a service-connected disability that can be treated outside of hospitalization. It says here that veterans may be eligible for additional compensation if they experience side effects from medication used to treat a service-connected condition. So again, just doubling down on the fact that you can file for secondary condition for issues that result from medication for your service connected condition. Huh. Boy, that's a lot. So it's definitely follow the bouncy ball thing going on. And I'll tell you that a lot of people miss the boat with secondaries. And sadly, there's a lot of information out there, Clay. I'm sure you agree. I mean, you've done videos on your channel, the CivDiv. I've done them on my channel, Veterans InfoTap, on, the value of a secondary condition. And I think that sometimes all of us in this group of people pushing out information, a lot of times it's very high level secondary condition. Go after your secondaries. My bad knee is, now messed up my hip, right? So it's mostly muscular skeletal type stuff is what they're usually talking about when it comes to secondaries. So I'm really glad that we're bringing the medication aspect as really the focal point on this specific avenue. So back to you, Clay.
Oh yeah, there's one last thing I'll bring up, and then we're gonna go ahead and reverse that and talk about why this is bad. You had mentioned something, and everyone needs to understand, because something I hear all the time is, the VA prescribed me a CPAP, but then they denied my CPAP apnea claim. It's like, okay, well, you had the current diagnosis, but you totally missed the in-service event. And I'm making that assumption, okay, assuming you went direct, meaning the medication that you receive, although it came from the VA, it still has to treat that service-connected disability. So if you're 50% or above, your healthcare is free. So if you go take mental health medication, but you're not rated for mental health, you're gonna probably, just to be real with you, you're probably gonna get erectile dysfunction and female sexual arousal disorder on the female side of the house. But if your mental health is not